One more time. All right. Good morning or good afternoon. Hi, Melissa. We
Hello.
have Melisa Kleen here from Blinkist in Berlin. Thanks, Melissa. Melissa is the head of business intelligence and data science at Blinkist. And Blinkist distills nonfiction books into 15-minute summaries that can be read or listened to. They currently offer over 3,000 books via their mobile apps, websites, and Alexa skill. Did I get this right, Melissa?
Yes, correct.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen real quick here to show people what Blinkist does. Here we go. Right. So this is Blinkist has a mobile app and I guess also a web app, and this is where people can listen to these audio snippets, these blinks, and it condenses a whole book into, I guess, 15 minutes of content. And that's the business model, right? And then I think it's a subscription. People pay an annual subscription, and then they have access to all these books and audio podcasts. Is that correct?
It's correct. It's mostly annual, but depending on choice, people can also opt in for monthly subscriptions. And we recently released our Alexa skill app that we are very proud of. So if
Got it.
they listen anytime at home, they can just activate the skill and
Awesome.
go.
Got it. So voice activation. Cool. All right. Well, Melissa, you as the head of BI and data science, you're responsible of everything data at Blinkist. And we've worked together for over 2 years by now. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about the data platform at Blinkist and also a very specific data product which falls under the umbrella of personalization. We'll get there. But maybe let's start out with, can you give us a broad overview of how you use data at Blinkist, and then we can dive into the specific personalization aspect and talk a little bit about the platform, everything starting from your data source, maybe all the way to the features that you build for the business.
All right. At Blinkist, we basically do, I would say, two types of data work. That on one hand, that impacts the business stakeholders. So on one hand, we have the descriptive reporting, we have the KPI definitions, we have the dashboards, we have the developing steering logics for our operation. We kind of assist the business and try to make it more and more data informed. And on the other hand, we of course have these data products that just make our product better or our work experience at Blinkist better. So we leverage data to make the customer experience in the app better, or we work together with engineers to maybe help develop an admin tool or add a new feature or automate a certain process that's been done manually, and to help the Blinkist employees here. We are centralized in one team, but we often launch projects in which we work as part of the vertical teams that have different elements in it, and most often engineers that actually help us ship these products to our platforms.
So you have a team. I want to dive down on that vertical aspect. You have people on your team who work in these vertical positions or functions. Is that correct? Can you dive down into that a little bit?
Yes. So, for example, the first project we launched in that setup was when we wanted to focus on personalization in our app. It became very clear to us through where the market is going and through what our focus is. So we offer more and more content, and we are a mobile first company. So this means that we have a very small space to offer very many different content,
Mhm.
and it becomes crucial that we actually can pick the right content at the right time for the right customer. So that became a pretty big priority,
Mhm.
and that was basically the point where we started hiring our first data scientists. And at that point, it was quite fast how everything happened, and we needed to ship quickly. So we opted in for a vertical team setup where we had Android engineers, iOS developers, backend engineers, designers, a product manager, and data scientists
Got
to
it.
work together to bring this to life.
Got it. Okay. So then from the product experience, I'm just going to paint a before after picture. Before, I would probably get some sort of list of books and everything, and everybody would get the same list of books. But then obviously I have different habits than you maybe, right? And so then the things you would propose to me would be different. It would be personalized, right? Based on my previous data or my previous consumption patterns. Is that roughly correct?
Yes, certainly. It would be one for all, and afterwards it would be targeted to each person's interests.
Got it. Okay. Can you, so can we just broadly cover your stack real quick? I assume you're like from going to your data sources, your data pipeline tools, your warehouse, your data sources. I obviously assume there's the Blinkist app in there, the different mobile apps, but can you talk about all the different data sources you're ingesting data from, including like any third-party tools you're using in the app?
Oh, in the app?
Yeah, like I assume like SDKs, right?
Yeah, so we actually, so we have, obviously, we have event tracking set up. That is the main source of our any analysis that is based on user behavior. And we have our own event tracking setup, actually. We used to use third-party tools, but we wanted to own that data, and we actually also realized that the market is going towards event-based everything, basically. Currently, we use events to optimize our Facebook campaigns, our AdWords campaigns. We send events to our CRM tool. Our CRM tool sends us events. And we basically try to keep everything on an event level, because that essentially tells us what the customer is doing, regardless of what's happening in the background. And that is exactly what we need to, the mindset that we need to have starts from the data that we are looking, and we are trying to keep everything customer-sided. So this was just one of the factors why we opted in for an event-based setup, and we wanted to own that. So we set that up through AWS Kinesis, and there's a lot of Lambda functions. We basically have a real-time ETL engine that runs and that does processes the events, does simple transformations, validates the events based on the definitions that we have defined in BI, and then writes these events into Redshift and takes a backup in S3. And basically, I mean, you can do it different ways. You can do S3 directly and then aggregate it in Redshift. It's a whole data lake setup, or opt in for Spectrum. It depends. This is what we are doing right now. And part of this data pipeline is actually open source. It's called Alchemist, and our very talented data engineers are developing it. This is something we can provide a link for. Basically, we don't have third-party SDKs. So all these events run on this event bus, and then they end up in Redshift from web, from Alexa Skill, from iOS apps and from Android, and from backend. And basically, we use Matillion, ELT, to process this data. As a result of that, we develop some fact tables, basically whatever table structure that we need. And the books and links interaction funnel, basically where we have all the information distilled about customers' interaction day by day on different platforms, feeds into our recommender models or anything personalization. We push this data to S3, the final calculations. And we have a SageMaker notebook that we have multiples that basically read this data and train on that and generate recommendations that are then written to DynamoDB and exposed to an API that our clients access, call, and get the recommendations to be displayed.
Wow. Okay. All right. Impressive.
So I can explain this perhaps better.
No. You have it. This was great. I got it. So, and I always repeat it back to make sure I really got it. So at some point, you guys decided that owning this data and the data pipeline is core to your business. So you built your own event streaming pipeline, right? And you're using Kinesis, AWS Kinesis on that one, correct?
Multiple AWS services.
Yeah.
Kinesis working together with Lambda, CloudWatch for monitoring. Basically, we leverage multiple AWS services to make this work for us at a low cost and high visibility.
Great. And from there, okay, you do some transformations, Kinesis, you put it into S3. From there, it goes into Redshift. You use Matillion to do ELT, some heavy transformations in Redshift. Then the results go back into S3. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
for SageMaker to access.
Oh, for SageMaker to access, right. And then any BI related data stays in Redshift, and there's a dashboard on top of that, probably. Is that correct?
Correct. We have Periscope data for general reporting and marketing reporting. It gives us a lot of flexibility because we are very detailed on the marketing side of things. We want to be very precise. So we have run everything on Matillion and we keep complete control over that. And the user engagement data, however, goes to Amplitude for us to analyze the product analytics side a little bit in depth. Periscope has fallen short on that. It's not a specialized tool, whereas Amplitude is.
Got it. We hear that a lot, that different teams use special tools. In this case, it's Amplitude, where it's the last mile for the delivery of the data, correct? Like you're doing all the cleaning, transformations in your data infrastructure, and then the last mile becomes a specific tool for specific teams. In this case, for you, it's Amplitude, correct? Okay. I wanted to share my screen real quick here and show. This is the Alchemist you talked about, right? So it's on GitHub. This is the URL. So this is it, right?
Correct. There is obviously some explanation right below and how to get started. Of course, we have developed a lot on top of that, but it's a great starting point for a simple ETL setup, and everybody can simply modify what transformations they want to have. They can point to different sources, they can point to different destinations, and it simply just moves the data around.
Got it. Okay. Here's a little bit the process. Okay, super interesting. We're gonna share that as part of the write-up here. Okay, awesome. So that gave us a great overview of everything that's happening in your data platform. What would be great? So let's talk a little bit about these personalization features and dive into that a little bit deeper. How does it work? What is the impact on the business? Also your team size, how you do it. Like, let's talk about what I think there are different components under this broad umbrella personalization, right? Can you talk about these different components?
Correct. Of course, you can personalize the experience at a different spectrum. So it depends on you what scope you define, how much of a personalized experience you want to offer to your customers. We started by just working on the For You section in the app. And by providing initially a simple collaborative filtering algorithm that's based on deep matrix factorization, because we thought that's what works for our use case. That actually had quite a bit of an uplift from the previous black box model that we had simply implemented using Prediction.io and did not really optimize much afterwards. What we also saw is that simply the discovery screen that we have, it has a lot of real estate, right? It takes up a lot of space. And on top of that, there is a search bar. And people can either discover content through the search bar or they can use the discovery screen. And people who discover content that we've offered has 1/3 less chance of becoming inactive, becoming dormant. So they stick better, they retain better by simply, first of all, not relying on them coming to us with something that they already know about and they want to get out of Blinkist, but for us offering something extra to them, something new, something interesting, something that they need. That's an added value that they get out of our product. So in that sense, personalization has a higher role. It also speaks to our product's vision that is basically becoming a lifelong learning platform. And afterwards, this was the first iteration. Then we started working on the recommendation and trying different things. And currently, we are testing different models. For example, we looked into content-based recommendation to unlock the long tail of books that we have. Because with collaborative filtering, you always highlight the books that are commonly popular, but it doesn't really enable deeper learning. And there is group of customers, of course, a big group that wants to learn deeper into certain topics and not simply staying on the general terms about many different things that many people are interested in. So the content-based recommender unlocks books that even have less than 100 reads if it actually fits the customer. So of course, in addition to that, we always experiment with personalized content together with randomized content because a part of our product offering is also learning new things and giving people the platform to actually discover something entirely new that they wouldn't otherwise read about. History of dinosaurs, they would not search about this. Probably they haven't read books about this in the past, but it's just interesting. And where else, other than a 15-minute book summary app, to learn this from? Because you are never going to get the full book, but you can get a trailer and see if you are actually interested in this. A little bit of self-discovery, a little bit of information, learning something new every day. And of course, in addition to this, personalization doesn't end in the app. We recently worked together with CRM team to develop personalized push notifications. Every day we send a daily pick to our users, and that used to be the same for everybody. And now we try to personalize that. Of course, still have a little amount of randomness in there, but at least knowing that it's closely it has a higher chance of being interesting to the audience. And that, for example, entirely happened together with CRM team. So we said, oh, we can definitely do this. And they said, our CRM tool allows us to quickly set this up and call your API endpoint. Shall we do this? And they had a half a day of a hack day, and this came out of them. So what I see as being critical is not only the way the data team is set up and putting your people in the vertical teams and letting them work on customer-facing products and not in their little containers pushing data, but also to make data and insights and how to work with data or how to leverage the experience with data, everybody else's responsibility as well. So today, all the product managers need to think, how can we leverage data? The CRM managers need to think, how can we leverage the data? Basically, anyone who is working with the customer needs to think about what we already know about the customer and how we can use this to make the experience better. And by putting this out there and building teams with common missions that has data as a key ingredient in there, we start getting there in terms of the mindset.
Makes sense. Okay. So there's a bunch of things that I want to dive down into, the data infrastructure, the team. I'm going to start asking you a few things about the team. How big is your team, like the people reporting to you, and what functions do they have? And then we can talk about how you interact with the different product and sales teams. But can we start with your team size? Maybe like how many people do you have in your team today, and what functions do they have?
I currently have 5 people, and in 2 weeks, a senior data scientist will join. So I'll have 6 people reporting to me, and we have our data engineering team that is separate, that we work very closely with, and there are 3 people.
3 people. And the data engineering team is responsible for pipelines, the Kinesis streams. Is that what they do?
Correct. Pipelines and basically the overall architecture of how we move data around.
Mm-hmm.
And also work together with the data science team to architect and implement the best data stack that will enable them.
Mm-hmm.
The way we work with them is again the same. We have vertical teams where we have data analysts and scientists and engineers in the teams.
Mm-hmm.
So their work is not to enable us, and period. Their work is to make real-time recommendations and improve customer engagement and happiness. And because they want to improve customer engagement,
Yeah.
they improve the data science stack that generates those recommendations and makes it more robust.
Makes sense.
And that gives everybody a greater purpose and actually makes sure everybody that works in the company has a customer-facing role and responsibility.
Interesting. Got it. Okay. And then your team consists mainly of the 5 or 6 people. These are data scientists. They mainly create the models and the transformations.
Data analysts and data scientists.
Yeah. Got it. Okay.
Half.
Interesting. Yeah. And then, okay, fascinating. And you mentioned something at the very beginning. The business impact is so the personalization that I get is either in the app, the recommendations, also the discovery, right? These push notifications together with your CRM. You mentioned in the beginning, was it like a 30% higher chance that they stay with Blinkist or convert? Like, is there some business metric you were able to determine?
Yes. So we looked at the different discovery sources and we realized people who engage solely with search have 3 times more likelihood to become inactive early on in their user journey. And that means we've lost them, and it's very difficult to gain them back. Mm-hmm. We focus very much on early habit building because we are a habitual app. You need to make it a part of your life to stick around. Commute users simply stick better because they can attach Blinkist to an existing habit of commuting 5 days a week. And the weekend users, for example, stick much worse because they probably started using Blinkist at a setup that is hard to repeat again.
Got it.
And these are basically things that we are building on. We want to increase early on engagement and reduce drop-offs, frustration points, and we realize one major thing leading to this is people not engaging with the content that we offer to them, but rather turning to search. So we decided to improve the content that we offer to them. And also the designs, the whole experience, making it easier to discover content. There has been, our regular users would notice, there has been a lot of changes in the past 6 months to the landing pages, to the content discovery sections. And a part of it is, of course, applying a layer of personalization to make the content spot on.
Fascinating. And then the CRM, sorry, just from a tools perspective, you guys use, what's your CRM? Is it Salesforce or is it another CRM?
Braze.
Braze. Okay, so you use Braze. Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. All right. So anything else like that, like having done this journey now, Melisa, and I know you've been building this over time and it has produced quite, it has had a huge impact on the company, right? Taking it from like, here are some books to, hey, here's some personalized recommendations on a daily basis, discovery, and, tripling user engagement. Having done this journey and built the stack and putting in resources, what are some of the lessons learned where you say, gosh, if I could go back in time, this is what I would do differently? What are some lessons learned? What would you do differently? If anything.
I think I would be a little bit more disruptive and aggressive with the way we launch data science in the company. This goes to all companies who want to switch from traditional BI and traditional data practices to data science. a company, no matter how data aware they are, they are used to descriptive reports. They are used to seeing what they've done analyzed, but predicting what's going to happen, recommending what we need to do based on the data, estimating what to expect, and actually developing the products that already solves the problems before they happen is an entirely different level. And I think any company who wants to have a successful data science division needs to be quite aggressive and make every team member a data science evangelist, going around showing people what fun things we can do with it, how they can incorporate it into their work, and show real life examples, do small proof of concepts, do MVP versions of big projects, and just show the tip of the iceberg, saying, hey, this can happen. This is just an example of what we can do. So let's plan in a project for this in the coming term. So be encouraging, be welcoming, and be patient, but outgoing. Because this doesn't happen overnight. And it is still, I know machine learning has been around for a long time, data science practices, but the level of acceptance in every company differs. You just need to be mindful and listen to your audience, and your colleagues are your audience, because machine learning can do nothing if it doesn't work together with the business practices.
And that then closes the loop where you have your vertical teams where everybody needs to think data first, like what is the data set we can use here to make the experience in Blinkist more personalized. Got it. Melisa, this has been super insightful. Thank you so much. This is a recording. I'm going to hit stop now, and 3, 2, 1, thanks so much.